The D2L powered by RaidCall, and yeah, Empire just kind of came out swinging and never let up, and I'm going to have to agree. I mean, you and I talked briefly about it, touched on it, the chat seemed to agree. I'm not going to lie, I did not like EG's draft, especially after seeing it in practice. We knew there were going to be weaknesses, and Empire certainly capitalized on them.
We talked about it during the mid-game especially. It's the inherent weakness of having melee heroes versus heroes like Batrider and Templar Assassin and Jakiro. They're all very good at basically disabling, stopping you from doing the damage that you want. And even though Sven had pretty much total free farm, the offlaner of Empire still accomplished a whole lot. He got 6 relatively fast, and he was able to make his presence felt a lot earlier in the game than maybe it should have been let. But you know, that's all in the past now. EG moves on to game number 2. But like you said, they're only one loss away, I should say, from Empire being the champions of the first season of D2L. So it is all on the line right here, and they are not going to give away Templar Assassin this time to Empire. They're going to go ahead and take it themselves with no Batrider or Darkseer to worry about.
And I really like the decision to do that, putting TA in Scandal's hands. And even when Scandal struggles, unless you just utterly, completely shut him down, just because Empire is so adept at running the style they do, at maximizing their late early game and mid-game potential, TA is just the perfect hero for that, and I'm like you, and you even mentioned it towards the end of the last game, is how can you let that happen? I mean, of all the heroes you want to ban, taking Wisp out's great. I would much rather give Empire a Darkseer as opposed to a TA, just because of the way TA, again, synergizes with Empire's playstyle. So she's taken off the board. Empire does not want to see Demon back on the Magnoceros. He's banned out along with the Bat. They're going to pick up 2 very strong supports, and arguably the 2 strongest and most highly valued lane supports in the game right now in Undying and Jakiro.
Well, having Undying Jakiro pretty much just screams tri-lane most of the time. We're talking about Empire at the very least, so it depends on if Blowyourbrain's going to be farming on it, or if we're going to put it on a support, basically, and see if they're going to pick a carry for their tri-lane. But typically when they do this, it's usually just Empire farming on the Undying and trying to make something happen during the early stages of the game in terms of team fights and pushing early towers. And that's really good against a Templar Assassin because you try to get some kind of advantage, restrict some map control before TA hits 6 and starts being active all over the map with her phase boots and fast blink. So now it's going to be up to what EG wants to try to do to counter this. I don't know if they're going to be going for their patented Fear Sven. They've ran it a lot today, and it feels like teams are getting the better of it most of the time, but they're actually going to go with a Brood instead. And it's an interesting choice because if it's going to be an aggressive trial lane, then that probably means the Brood's just going to go top anyway against whatever solo that Empire wants to bring to bear. And this could be a situation, too, that we could be looking at a Clinks here for Empire. I know they love it in situations where they feel as though they're going to get the better of the lane, but if it's going up against a Brood, I'm not sure if that's such a good idea. And they're going to take Enigma too, so kind of a heavy push-centric second and third hero coming out from EG, but they already have a very strong mid to partner with it, so we'll see what Empire wants to do about it.
I'll tell you what really, really stands out and bothers me immediately for EG. And not, again, I don't mean to be a naysayer, but just knowing Empire, we've casted them so many times. Same with EG. You've got the Broodmother, you've got the Enigma, the Eidolons, the Spiderlings. We know how well that can work in a push. TA, just because of when she tends to peak, fits into an early game, mid game push style as well. But already, before they even pick up their third hero, look what they're going to have to try to push into. They're going to have to try to push into a Tombstone. They're going to have to try to push into Ice Path that can just spam spiders down and Eidolons, or at least lock them in place to allow them to be spammed down once they hit the tower. You're going to have to worry about dual breath AoE, and that's fine, but the macro pyre as well. So hard to push into that, and more to the point, again, Empire style really likes fighting early. They like to try and apply pressure and string a team out and try to catch them out of position. And by definition, if you're playing an early sort of a push lineup, you are going to intentionally be putting yourself out of position, pushing and playing very aggressively, and that can play into Empire's favor. Now they're going to have the Sand King. It's the exact same thing. Pushing into a Sand King who's going to be able to burrow strike to initiate his epicenter, of course, pushing in. I mean, anytime you want to push an early tower, you have to have it in your mind. Where is the Sand King? Does he have a blink dagger? How quickly can he get on top of us? And Enigma with Black Hole, that's certainly going to help in the team fight department, but I feel like what EG has picked up so far is already at least somewhat countered by what Empire has picked up as well.
Well, the Brood and the Sand King are probably going to be landing against each other. That's pretty much what we can gather from the situation, because if you're looking at the lineup right now of Empire and EG calls that it's going to be an aggressive trial, which it very well could be in that situation, then the Brood's going to go to the offlane. The Sand King is going to meet him there with Caustic and Sandstorm and be like, yeah, there's not really much you can do in terms of pushing. It only takes one hero in this case for Empire to shut Brood down, which is good because Empire loves playing aggressive strategies. It also means that he's probably going to be getting more farm than usual. Typically, a Brood will end up losing some broodlings in lane. It just happens. No matter how good you are at your micro, against a Sand King especially, you're going to end up giving away a little bit of extra gold. So with that being said, I do like what Empire has brought to bear in their first picks. And because of the fact they didn't take a Tide there, I'm a little bit surprised. Tide could have just as easily soloed against the Brood as well as a Sand King in some cases, but I think they want it just because of the Sandstorm, the mobility. It's much harder to gank a Sand King than it would be a Tide Hunter, even in the safe lane in this particular situation. But the tri lane of EG is going to be on the opposite side of the map anyway, so I'm not really sure. Maybe they just favor Sand King because he is a very good blink initiator, and he doesn't need his ultimate to be effective in team fights, whereas Tide Hunter is kind of picked for his ultimate most of the time. Maybe they're just looking to pick him because they don't have to wait for that cooldown to be active on the map.
Back to Sand King for a moment. Just want to point out, and I'm pretty sure we've seen Empire do it one time. It was only in one game, and I think I even know the team. I think it was against Fnatic in the group stage, where we saw them pick these three exact heroes. And while everything you said about the way he matches up with the Broodmother is brilliant and very likely to take place, I'm positive that Empire at some point in the group stage picked these three heroes and actually ran an offensive tri-lane with it, with the Sand King farming. Now, when you think about it in those terms, you're going to have the Sand King to lead out with what is essentially an instant stun, and the Burrow Strike also functions as an AoE stun. You're going to have Undying there to spam people down low and set that situation up. Jakiro with the Ice Path and the Dual Breath. It can be a very, very dangerous offensive tri-lane, or as you pointed out, and again, I think it could very well take place, Sand King up against the Broodmother and just everything that he is able, all the pressure he's able to apply there, how hard he is to gank, etc. The bans continuing out. EG has finished their banning phase. Bounty Hunter, Naga, and Night Stalker not going to be joining us. Neither will Rubik and Juggernaut, courtesy of Empire. We'll see who their final ban's going to end up being.
I like the fact that Empire went and banned out the Juggernaut because of the fact that with an Enigma and you have Healing Ward, that tri-lane has some serious push potential behind it. And even with a potential tri-lane coming out right now from Empire, they don't want to go head-to-head with the Juggernaut because these teams have actually met today and they played a Juggernaut versus an aggressive magic-based tri-lane, and EG's tri-lane came out on top. In this game, they don't have the physical damage dealers like a Klinks, like a TA during the mid-game to just compensate for it, and they're not getting free lane wins like we saw in that game either. So banning out the Juggernaut is just a precautionary measure, and because that they have shown that they are proficient with the hero, that it's just Goblak's style of saying, I don't want you guys to have stuff that we know that you can run. So I like the fact that they got rid of that a lot. But now it's going to be up to what kind of a carry that EG wants to run in this situation. Brewer's going to be banned out as well because they don't want to give EG more team fight control. Being able to put heroes like Undying up in a Cyclone, that stops him from obviously decay spamming, potentially even dropping his Tombstone in the first place. And the Rubik is just to say, hey, we don't want you to steal our Tombstone because we've seen what happens, and it's not good when a Tombstone gets stolen. But Windrunner seems to be the choice for at least maybe a support, maybe a farming hero in this case.
I really like the pickup of Windrunner here. I suspect that might have been the pickup for Empire if they hadn't have done that. And again, the more I think about it, the more I'm sniffing an offensive trialing out of Undying, Jakiro, and Sand King. The Enigma, most likely going to be in the jungle. I mean, he just about has to be. You've got Broodmother, she's going to need a solo lane. Templar Assassin functions best in a solo lane. Enigma, what are you going to do with him? Pretty much you're limited to putting him in the jungle. Now, what can they possibly do? Like, what two heroes can possibly stand while Enigma is trying to jungle up and fight against a Sand King, Jakiro, Undying tri-lane? Now you add Sven into it, and it kind of serves the same purpose. So, and I think they're just kind of interchanging those out, maybe even a little surprised that Sven has made it this deep. So I think that does solidify the fact that Sand King is going to wind up against the Broodmother, as you had outlined, and they're probably just going to offensively tri-lane the Undying, Jakiro, and Sven, and this is going to be some rough going for EG. Yeah, I really think that Empire has really put together an amazing draft so far.
The one thing they have to be cautious about, they're going to go with an Earthshaker, so we could potentially be looking at just an off-lane Brood with a tri-lane Windrunner, Earthshaker, and the Enigma in the jungle. I mean, they could do an aggressive tri-lane, but I'm not sure if that's in their best interest because they're basically shutting down just the Sand King. Their push potential is going to be okay. They'll be able to transition the Enigma to the lane. They've done it already once today, and it was interesting to say the least. Enigma is not usually a hero where you say, oh yeah, he's definitely going to aggressive tri-lane because he needs levels really badly. He's not a hero who can just go and level 1 with a creep and gank because of a good ability from said creep. He has to get levels to get his Eidolons up to get more damage from them. His Malefice at level 1 is pretty awful in terms of a disable. It's 1 tick of a 1-second stun and it does like no damage. So I'm not really sure. I think EG's lanes are a little bit predictable in that sense, but we'll see what Empire is wanting to put mid here because the TA is still on the board for EG and no one really on their team so far can lane that effectively against it, but we might actually be seeing a dual lane versus a TA instead as a keeper as the last pick.
Yeah, Empire has their options wide open, and just looking, I mean, just think about the sheer amount of early lane and even mid-game, scaling all the way to the mid-game damage they're going to have in terms of both right-click and spells. Sven, of course, going to shore up any right-click deficiency they might have had with God Strength, and you've got the Tombstone, you've got Jakiro, you've got Illuminate spam, you've got Epicenter, you've got just about everything you need if you're in Empire's shoes. You've got some laning options available to you, too. And looking at EG's squad, they just feel thin. You know, again, we love EG. They've played immaculately to this point. Their only best of 3 loss only dealt to them in the playoffs, and it was by this exact same team. And EG, I agree. I feel like they were a bit predictable, and they're going to end up suffering because of it. However, Demon is making his way up to top. And Bdiz, well, I'll tell you what. How about we just let those take shape while we run through the lineups? Fear is actually going to be playing on our Broodmother. Not every day you get to say that. Jeyo going to be handling TA. Not a surprise there. Demon on our Windrunner as expected. Well, I guess I can't say as expected, just given the way they picked. He could have wound up on a variety of heroes. Bdiz, though, going to be playing our Earthshaker, and Maelk going to be running on Enigma. On the other side of the river, Empire, 1 win away from walking away 3-0 victors in this best of 5. We've got Goblak, the captain, handling the Undying. We're going to have SS playing our Keeper of the Light, Scandal, hanging out towards mid right now, and he is generally their mid specialist. He's going to be on Jakiro. Sven, played by Blowyourbrain, no surprise, their farmer, and Phonic in the long lane on this Sand King. So Fear is going to be on our Broodmother as he makes his way down to bottom. We've got Bdiz hanging out here. The web has knocked out the trees near the pool camp near mid, so that's going to be something they're going to have to their advantage most certainly. Jeyo going to be in mid as well. Maelk waiting to deny a creep. There we go. And yeah, looks like we're going to have a solo lane Demon, and we'll figure out where Maelk's going to wind up. One can only imagine it's going to be in the jungle next to Fear.
I assume it's going to be the jungle as well. In the scenario that they see the Sand King is going to be up against the Brood, which we totally expected. Empire called that the Brood was going to be down here pretty much no matter what. And this is a situation where you have to ask yourself, is it going to be worth pushing 2 fast towers for what the free farming Sven or whoever is going to be farming up here is going to be getting? And since Blowyourbrain is playing Sven, obviously he's going to be farming. But Jakiro mid versus a TA, Scandal's going to get Liquid Fire at level 1. It's very, very good against Refraction. But the problem is it has a 20-second cooldown. But if you think about it, Refraction's cooldown's only 17. So at the very least, he should be able to eat through Refraction with just 1 auto because the duration is actually 5 seconds. And that eats through Refraction all the way up until its max level, until it gets its full instances. So it's actually a very useful utility. You can already see Scandal is doing quite a good job at bullying him, and he's ranged, so he's able to still farm quite well.
Demon's sucking up some experience, and this is something Demon's known for. I got to admit, the guy has ice water in his veins. You'll see him dig himself into slots like this, and even though it looks like he's about to be caught out, he will just sit totally stationary. We saw that as we saw Empire move right past him, just didn't get a glimpse of him. And he does well. It's a hallmark of Demon, why he is such a talented long lane player. His instincts out in that suicide lane, very dead on most of the time. In the meantime, Bdiz is stacking and pulling now. It hurt him spin to Fissure there, trying to get himself some farm and some levels. Bdiz, you get the feeling, is going to have to be an ultra high value hero. They used that last pick on him. And he's doing a good job here helping out his mid lane, and Jeyo certainly needs it up against Scandal on the Jakiro, as you pointed out, the Liquid Fire causing problems in terms of refraction. But Bdiz is going to have to be basically landing every fissure to maximize the value of that hero and give EG a chance to overcome what a strong mid game Empire is going to be able to bring out.
Empire always picks for strong mid-game. They always pick for strong lanes. It's just a matter of what EG is really going to be able to get out of this situation, because Demon's obviously going to be struggling. He's up against a tri-lane. Fear is going to be farming, sure, and because of the fact that the Enigma is in the jungle on their side, they should be able to push relatively fast towers, which is definitely a good thing as well. But is it going to be enough? Jeyo gets a haste. In the meantime, mid might be looking to kill Scandal.
Yep, Scandal's in some trouble. Jeyo dancing around, little dual breath, and Jeyo's actually going to have to run. And again, that just goes to show you how strong, and this is something I haven't seen personally, but it's working out amazingly well for Scandal right now, using Jakiro, the Liquid Fire, and the Dual Breath. How often do you hit level 3, and there's not a single point in the Ice Path for a Jakiro? But Scandal, perfect way of thinking, is just flat out dominating here. TA has 9 last hits, but he has been able to chase her back. He's sitting on 5 last hits himself. Maelk continuing the jungle up. He's at 7. The 2 big winners, the Broodmother, as rather expected. And Phonic only has 1 point in the Caustic Finale, so he's going to have to be a little bit careful here. As Fear actually opted for a Poor Man's Shield, did not rush out the Soul Ring, so he's got a little bit more time.
Well, he doesn't need the Soul Ring right away. We can see that Funnick is still being heavily pressured. He's forced to pop the salve right there and go into the Sandstorm to prevent Fear from doing any damage to break it. But at this point, I mean, Empire's got some pretty strong lanes. Jeyo is still doing pretty well in the middle lane. He's sitting at 12-0 compared to Jakiro is only at 6-2. So while Scandal is able to do some harassment and trade with him, he's still not getting the best of the farm. And I think that's what makes TA such a strong hero. Is even when you get countered by abilities, you still can't really effectively farm and harass to keep the TA off you at the same time. That seems to be the common theme for what we've seen in these 3 games. So TA is still very hard to lane against, even if you have dot damage. And once the Jakiro gets a couple more levels, maybe starts getting points into Ice Path on top of his dots, then I think things could start taking a turn for the worse for this TA mid. But at this point in time, everything seems to be going quite well for EG.
Taking a look at the levels. 3, actually. It's a lot of 4s on the board, but still the 2 level 5 heroes, both on the side of EG. So yeah, I agree with you. They are doing quite well so far. Have not really seen... Oh, here we go. Funnick going to be forced in again. And at some point you have to figure Fear's going to invest in a Sentry Ward. I mean, he's doing quite a good job here on Brood. You don't see him on that hero too terribly often, but doing a great job for his team. Maelk is making progress as well, halfway to level 5. Already has his Soul Ring up, plus another 200, nearly 300 gold in the bank. And Scandal is just flat out deciding to push this tower. This tier 1 mid is already down to half health. And he's got some illusions there to help him out this time. And certainly, the extra points from Liquid Fire, he's opted to go ahead and go 2-0-3. 3 points in the Liquid Fire are going to help him push even faster.
That's kind of one of the strengths, is that when Jakiro hits your tower once, it takes way more damage than normal heroes. It's very similar to how Dragon Knight works when he hits level 6. You get that poison attack. It's the same thing, except Liquid Fire actually slows attack speed on towers as well by 40%. So say, for instance, Scandal is able to push this wave very hard like he's doing right now, get the wave to the tower when Liquid Fire comes back up, he'll be able to do more damage to this tower than any other hero really would be able to at this point. And because Jeyo is being forced back, of course it's only 5 minutes in, so there's no room going to be spawning, he can pretty much do the same thing over and over.
Really good sidestep there. Scandal juking back towards Jeyo to avoid the side trap. Jeyo was thinking a little bit of damage could be done. Hang on, Funnick's going to be caught out. He is going to be punished, so EG able to put first blood on the board. That's certainly the start they needed. Bdiz and Maelk have hooked up with Fear now, and it looks like they're thinking tower, knowing that mid tower is about to drop as well. Scandal continuing to trade paint with Jeyo, but with the Eidolons and the Spiderlings, should have no problem pushing this down, and Empire's not even going to react. No TP's coming in even to the tier 2. And Scandal moving back forward. The tower's got about 279 hit points on it, so he's going to be able to apply some pressure. Jeyo comes back out, going to go ahead and spin to Meld as well, doing good damage, and Scandal might get cut off here. He will. So Jeyo handling this pretty well, throws out the side trap as well. Looks like Enigma's going to pick off Sand King in the meantime on the other lane. Scandal is going to end up dying on the bottom. We see EG notching another kill there, picking Funnick off once again, and pushing this tier 1 tower now.
One thing we haven't really talked about too much is the fact that during the first couple of waves, we were seeing that the Earthshaker, of course, being played by Bdiz, was pulling middle, which makes Jakiro's life just that much harder. But at the same time, it also makes their tower middle take more damage because Jakiro's able to walk up and apply his Liquid Fire. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Of course, TA is winning mid by a pretty large margin now, definitely doubling the CS. The tower's still not dead, so the Jakiro really hasn't paid for itself just yet. He's still very, very strong, but he doesn't have any points on Ice Path, and he's still not 6, where Jeyo is now level 7, almost level 8, so he's going to need help at some point from an outside source if he wants to make his way back in. Funnick's died 2 times in a row. He's already lost the tier 1 bottom, and things have taken a very sudden turn for the worse for Empire.
Taking a look at our gold graph, we can see that's actually nearly a 4,000 gold advantage for EG, so they're certainly making the most out of their lanes, and I think it's really impressive the way they've been able to do this. Jeyo continuing to farm up. He's sitting at 30 last hits now. 32 for Sven, 33 for Broodmother, right on top of each other. And Demon being cheeky, giving the old laugh. Didn't see what happened, but probably just doing something ultra annoying, because Demon is officially the most annoying player ever to play against. We got a good look at that. The multiple times he played Magnus all throughout the evening. Now we have Empire moving towards mid. They're going to try and catch Jeyo. Can they do it? Funnick's there to lead with the Burrow Strike. Here's going to be the Illuminate spam. Jeyo, oh, there's the epicenter. That's a dead Jeyo. Can he get Scandal first? No, he cannot. One auto attack away, but Scandal manages to bottle himself back up. So they managed to pick him off. Finally, they're on the board, and it looks like they're going to be able to take the tier 1 mid, courtesy of Scandal and his Liquid Fire. And we're going to have a dive on Demon. Demon, when running away, Blowyourbrain does not have enough mana for a Stormhammer. So Demon able to stay alive despite the dive out of Goblak and Blowyourbrain. But now asserting their dominance here as well. A little bit of power shot spam, forcing them back, and just, yeah, down goes the Tombstone even. And Demon doesn't care. Demon is just going to chase. Yeah, Goblak's dead. Down, dies to tower shots. So Demon actually manages to turn that around to his own advantage. And yeah, that's just what Demon does. Such a talented long lane player. He's got to be careful though. Jeyo's there to bail him out. Now we're going to have a side trap on SS. SS trying to get back. Going to go ahead and use Jakiro one more time on Blow Your Brain. Gives him time to throw out one good Stormhammer. Now another TP comes out. Warcry going to give them the bonus movement speed. SS and Blow Your Brain looking for safety, and that is actually going to catch SS. Got caught with the side trap trying to TP out. Will he be found? No! Manages to make it back home.
Really nice TP right there. Maelk actually got fogged on his Malefice, and now Jeyo might be getting caught out as well.
Yep, oh, what a shackle shot! Spanning the chasm. Scandal and Blow Your Brain, but both of them managed to survive. Scandal, with the invis rune he had in the bottle, came in about the best time you could ever ask, and just look at that, combined. They have 34 plus, couldn't have been more than 30, less than 70 health combined, give or take, between those two heroes, and Demon with a great shackle shot. Shackled them together across, or I guess I should say from the stairs up and over the little chasm there. But it's 4-1. EG maintains their lead, unable to put a few more kills on the board there. Empire, though, beginning to show their strength in the mid-game. And Scandal's going to be caught with a side trap. He's going to go ahead and start to bottle up. Trying to get himself back, and now there's an Ice Path, Liquid Fire, Dual Breath. Doesn't matter. He's going to end up dropping. Jeyo takes some damage, but no one there to follow up with it. A little D-warding going on. And this is kind of what we expect out of these squads. Usually it stays quiet, but now we're beginning to have the game open up and the action coming fast and furious.
Well, the more action that happens, especially when you have a TA who's pretty much one middle at this point, and that's heavily, again, on the back of the fact that Earthshaker was pulling for him, Scandal was doing a really good job of keeping him passive, and even with the haste during a level 3, he was able to push him back just on pure damage output, and because of the fact that Jakiro has a very, very high stat gain. He's a really tanky hero with basically no tank items. He's almost got 1,000 health. Compared to TA, who's only at 853, when at this point the Jakiro is almost 2 levels behind. That's a pretty big deal. So it's a very, very difficult situation for Empire at this point because you want your mid to be able to stop the TA, and it just hasn't quite happened yet. And of course, your offlane isn't doing well either. Funnick is only level 7, which is okay because he has max rank Burrow Strike, but they have to try to catch people off guard, and that's what they're looking to do bottom lane.
Coming around the backside, Bdiz with his back turned to them. Here we go. Funnick's going to move in, and Bdiz doesn't react. Even there we go. Finally, he takes off, goes and starts to run. Must have been playing around in the shop or something. Got clawed in the back twice before he even moved or reacted. So Empire manages to add a kill to their total. It's their second one. Funnick now wiping out as many spiders as he possibly can. In the meantime, Maelk is hooked up with Jeyo here in mid. This tier 1 in mid, well defended by Scandal, still very high in health. Demon's actually going to go ahead. Yeah, he's just face tanking the tower. Takes half of his health in tower shots, thinking about diving Goblak. Yeah, he's all the way down to a quarter health, so a little indecisiveness there cost Demon a chance at maybe diving. But Funnick and SS now moving back across the river into enemy territory. They have the freedom to do this with that tier 1 down. Very important that Scandal was able to do that. Jeyo gonna be targeted down. Here we go. Burrow Strike lead off. Liquid Fire, Illuminate spam, Ice Path. The refraction went off, but not nearly enough to tank him through the epicenter. So Funnick using that epi basically just to shut down Jeyo, and it's getting the job done. Empire continuing to narrow that gap a bit, or at least stop the bleeding. 3,000 gold, the advantage from EG. They have dipped down a bit. Same with Experience, but still their game so far here in the early game.
The thing about Empire is they know when their lanes have lost at this point. We're going to see a Burrow Strike on a Demon, but I don't think as much is going to be followed to it. It's just a matter of being able to pick off the high priority targets like the TA, because the longer the TA stays dead, not only the farther away is she from Blink, but she can't do anything during the mid-game to kill somebody on your team, basically. And that opens up room for other heroes on the map to continue their farm. They want the Sven to get as tanky as possible. Blow Your Brain's actually killing a creep stack right now. It's at the medium camp right by the top rune spot. So that's going to allow them to get more farm up. They're going to be pushing this tier 1 after taking out TA. They just need to be careful not to overextend because TA can still engage from very far away.
Speaking of very far away, there's a Shackle follow-up after the fissure. Black Hole's going to catch a couple. Funnick caught in it, as is Goblak. Funnick's going to drop. A little bit of Illuminate spam doing some damage. Not enough to save Goblak right off, though. The Tombstone being focus fired down. Demon might drop. Scandal shows up, but he's probably just going to have to run away. Caught with another fissure. Got the Ice Path offlock. Jeyo in place, but basically signed his own death warrant the moment he decided to engage. And yeah, he's going to be picked off. TA gets that kill as well. Up on the top side, Demon not done yet. Shackles up SS. SS uses the wand to get himself back in the fighting shape. Gonna try and run away. No! Long range fissure. And that came from the low ground. Beautiful aim, beautiful usage of the spell. Coming out of the Earthshaker. Bdiz MVP, you is.
Very, very well done. Another good coordinated fight. The Black Hole managed to hit 2 right on top of the tower. And again, the TA got back up after being ganked in the middle lane, immediately got herself to a team fight. That's what the TA is meant for. It's meant to just keep applying pressure because of how much burst damage that hero does, even with no items. Refract, 80 extra damage on auto attacks and -8 armor at this early in the game is too much for really anyone to stand up to, and especially because of the fact that Sven hasn't gone for a full Warcry build. He's only got +8 armor instead of 12 or 16 that he would have gotten if he just maxed out the Warcry in general, but he did it for creep stack, so it's understandable. It's just to say that no one is really tanky enough to stop that TA from running into team fights and just blowing somebody up. So they do have the dot damage to take her out. It's just going to be don't get caught out of position. They didn't even manage to get the tier 1, honestly, so EG remains ahead, and very, very much so.
Funnick, burrow strikes under the fissure. Bdiz spotted out because of that. Here's the TP reaction coming in, and Funnick's in no man's land. There's an immediate ice path that catches Demon as he lands. Goblak's there with the tombstone down. Funnick looking for some safety. Is he going to start to channel the epicenter? Be surprised if he didn't. And yeah, this is just a weird situation for Empire. They're cut off. Another ice path comes out, and there's the shackle shot. Doesn't latch. Burrow strike on Jeyo. Funnick has yet to use the epi. Scandal going to be caught along with Goblak by the fissure. They do get the tower, so that might be enough to make them retreat. Just taking one objective and then falling back, and we're going to have a quick pause in the middle of the action. Mega lag, says Maelk. And I'm going to guess, since no one has mentioned it, that the stream is all good to go after the software crash we had. And almost 11,000 viewers in the house, according to the numbers that are being fed to me right now. I want to thank each and every one of you. Be you a first-time viewer or one of those folks who showed up for darn near every broadcast for helping make the D2L a success in its inaugural season. I'm AC, that's Draskell, and this is effectively game number 3, with Empire leading 2-0 over EG. They did, of course, start with a 1-game advantage because they came through the winner's bracket here in the playoffs. EG 1 game away from elimination. They were able to knock out Dignitas in the lower bracket finals. Dignitas finished up in 3rd place, $2,000 richer. 2nd place here today is going to wind up with $3,000 in their pocket, and the $5,000 grand prize, half of our $10,000 prize pool, going to go to 1st place. Demon has reconnected. Hopefully whatever lag issues exist are settling out. But yeah, once again, thanks to you guys, thanks to RaidCall, to Monster Energy, to Sapphire, and to Intel, and to you, Draskell. Can't forget to thank you.
Always good to be here, of course, especially when we're casting games like this. I always love watching, of course, American teams like EG play. I love watching Empire play. It's just, right now, to watch EG play the way that they're playing after taking such a hard loss in game number 1, it's fun to watch, you know, because these two teams, again, this is the 3rd time they've been in this entire tournament. 3 times!
Yep.
2 best-of-3s. This is a best-of-5. Well, I guess it is effectively a best-of-3 if you want to consider the fact that Empire comes in with a 1-game advantage, but it's more so the fact that EG manages to come back time and time again when it looks like games are so lopsided, and then the next time they come in, they manage to get good lane advantage and take things in their favor. So, going to have the game on pause. And you know what's really interesting to note about this game is that as bad as the lanes have been going for Empire, as we're going to see Sven actually get a kill right there on Bdiz, they're still not that far behind.
No.
Like, they're not far enough behind where I would say, oh yeah, EG totally has this in the bag. It's not like a 10 or 15,000 golden experience lead like some games we see. It's definitely high, but it's not insurmountable. And that's what everybody has to keep in mind here, because late game Sven damage is pretty ridiculous to deal with. Brood is not a hard carry. She manages to get a tier 2 bottom, but her scaling isn't phenomenal. Once the towers are down, she becomes a lot weaker.
I think that's what scares me the most, and you took the words right out of my mouth, is when you look at how well EG is doing, and they're playing phenomenally well. Their decision-making is great, and their lineup has actually done a lot better in the laning phase than I ever thought it would, but the Broodmother pick is still the liability it's always going to be. She is basically built to be a stationary hero. The more she moves around, the effect... Oh, hang on. Well, that's what happens whenever Brood can stay stationary. You're just going to be able to pick folks off because you've got a long-ass trail of webs. But once we reach the point of the game where they're going to have to start relying on Fear to be there in a big way for a lot of the team fights to push and to counter-push, they're not going to have the advantage. And, you know, Fear, again, has done a great job on this Broodmother. Has got a lot accomplished in this lane. You can see, hang on, Blowyourbrain might get picked off. No, might too. It will be shackled and dropped by EG. Moving as a team and adding another kill to their total, make it 11-4, almost tripling up Empire at this point. But EG has taken a great step. I feel like they have to continue on this path, though. I don't feel like they have the luxury of letting up because of that Broodmother pick and because of the fact that Sven, even though he has struggled here and there, still had good farm early and is going to continue to farm up. He's got a Mask of Madness, his bracers towards his drums, and an Ogre Club working on his BKB now.
And once the BKB is finished, that's going to be kind of the go to just take team fights nonstop because of the fact that both of these teams have a little bit of what I would call hybrid damage. They have some physical, they have some magical. I think the advantage kind of goes to EG in that department because they have a TA. Anytime you have a TA, the physical damage output of your team is going to be much, much higher because minus armor increases all of your team's damage, not just your own. But against somebody like a Sven, it's not really so effective. It's completely nullified, actually, by Warcry. And the thing that really, really hurts EG is the AoE potential that's coming out from Empire. If you get caught out in a bad position, you take a drawn-out team fight. When you get illuminated, you can possibly get blinked on and epicentered. It's a very, very difficult thing to come back from because not a lot of their heroes have high base health. I mean, Maelk has his mech finish, which is definitely a good thing at only 17 minutes, but one good blink epi, one illuminate, that could win a fight.
Looks like they were thinking about diving there, thought better of it. The glyph popped on the tier 1. It's still going to drop for sure one way or the other. Illuminate spam does a little extra damage, and a fissure has a bit of a goodbye parting gift. As they try to retreat, Funnick's going to be there. Going to burrow strike on Demon. The rest of EG a bit spread out. Funnick waiting on the rest of his team to catch up before they engage. Blowyourbrain's there. He's got half his mana. Only 210. So he's only going to have enough for a Stormhammer if they decide to fight. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Fear, in the meantime, using the spiders to apply some pressure to this bottom lane. And this is generally, whenever you hear and think Broodmother, this is what you want. Anytime Empire moves at all away from that bottom lane, you want to be banging on that tier 3. And Fear doing a good job picking his moments. He's already got his his Orchid up. So he's going to be ready to one-on-one anyone who might come to try and mean him harm. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like this game is very, very close. You can take a look at the gold and see 7,500 in favor of EG. They are definitely ahead, same in experience. But as this game begins to go later and later, Empire is going to be able to claw their way back into it. EG, I think, needs to shut the door as quickly as they possibly can.
The problem lies in the fact that, like we talked about, Brood falls off, whereas Sven gets better and better because of the items that he gets. The damage output of a Sven in the late game is ridiculous. We've seen it in the past, especially partnered with other heroes. He can be just an absolute terror, and you get a couple of good clicks off, you get a crit stick or anything like that, get a Daedalus and Mask of Madness. 2 or 3 swings can end a fight. That's it. That's all you need. And that's what makes Sven such a ridiculously scary hero as the game goes on, especially because those team fights past the 30 to 35 minute mark mean a lot more than the early game skirmishes because of how fast you can actually push.
Yep.
Whereas normally in the early game, you get a team fight down, it's like, okay, well, no one really does any damage at this point. We might be able to do some damage to the tower, maybe even get 1 or 2. But you're not going to like lose a Rax at a 15-minute fight unless you're just losing pretty badly the entire game. So as time goes on, we'll have to worry about that. But it looks like Blowyourbrain is just not scared of anything, and he's just running right in the bottom.
Blowyourbrain, yep, he is going to be caught by a fissure on the backside. Fear decides to go ahead and pop the ulti, giving pursuit to Blow. And Blow actually juking and using the Broodmother's own spiders as a method of escape there. SS, Tranquil Boots, some wards, and some sentries. So Empire definitely wants to do something about Fear. They've had about enough of it. Wants to go ahead and shove this lane out. Would probably do themselves a favor by trying to take that tier 1 at some point. It is worth mentioning that a lot of towers are still standing for it to be 20 minutes, and given how much action we've seen. 15 kills on the board, much more movement, I would even say, than kills. A lot of kills that could have happened but just didn't for whatever reason. So there's been a lot of action, even if the kills don't necessarily reflect exactly how much there's been. 20 minutes in, and only 2 towers down for EG at this point. In the meantime, you're talking 3 missing for Empire, and they're going to go ahead and just continue to nuke down these spiders every chance they get. A little bit of farm, get those spiders off the map.
As long as they can continue to counter-push the Brood, he's going to be forced back into his own jungle. And this is kind of one of the downfalls of Brood as well. Once people start reacting to you, you have to basically leave the lane. If you're not counter-pushing somewhere else, and speaking of, we're going to see Funnick actually drop here to top due to Maelk and Demon picking him off on the side. And this is just a bad situation overall for Empire because they can't afford to be committing this many heroes to stopping the Brood and then lose somebody somewhere else and lose a tower too. That's not really coming out ahead in this case. They trying to find a way to get back into the game, and losing your Sanking at this point is not one of those ways. Yeah,
no, I agree. And it was Funnick's fault, really. He was just out of position. And he has to know whenever Enigma might be around. If Enigma shows up, you can't just Sandstorm. If he gets a Malefice off on you, you're guaranteed at least 5 or 6 seconds when going into Sandstorm is going to be completely useless. That's exactly what killed him there. He went into Sandstorm a little bit too late. The Malefice had already been thrown on him, so he was, of course, mini-stunned out of it. In the meantime, EG took tier 1. They want to push to tier 2. They've got this down to half health, and Demon just pounding away using Focus Fire. There's Goblak. He drops it down the tombstone. Jeyo's still standing there. They do get the tower. Empire, are they going to get anything in return? Jeyo caught with an ice path, but really no other support. Finally, here come the rest of them. Funnick fresh back after the respawn. He's spotted out, uses the sandstorm. He's got a blink dagger if he wants it. And EG, not willing to let up, and I like this out of them. I think this is what they need to do. They've got an advantage. They need to continue to press it. Take a page out of Empire's book. Again, probably the defining factor of the team outside of their mid-game aggression is the fact that if they do get an advantage, they play extremely, even more aggressive, and they play much more risky. And I think EG would be behooved quite a bit to continue with this style. Fear continues to farm up. And taking a look at the last hits, he and Sven up near the top. 146 for Fear, 142 on Blowyourbrain. Kills 3-0-3 on Demon, 3-0-1 on Fear, 3-2 for Jeyo. That's reflected, of course, in the overall score, 12-4. EG tripling up Empire. And Empire going to have to try to get something done soon.
Yeah, they might be able to catch Demon, though, middle.
Yeah, Force Staff going to get him out of trouble. I feel like, as good as Empire's team is, I don't know that they have the best team for isolating one or two heroes. I feel like they have a team that is going to be much benefited by trying to push as 5. Make sure they get the most out of Epicenter and Macropyre. Make sure the Tombstone goes down in good position. And more than anything, abuse the fact that Fear is just not going to be very mobile. He's got a TP if he wants it and needs it. BKB now completed to go along with his Orchid. But with all of the damage input, as you pointed out, and used, I very much agree with the phrase hybrid damage. They've got a lot of it. We're just not seeing them really use it that much.
It's a really interesting situation because EG has this gigantic advantage, but they still feel a little bit passive, like they're not pushing it. Their Earthshaker has a blink now, maybe that's what they were looking for to try to get in and out of team fights. Even Maelk has a blink, so they have 2 blinks and the initiators that they need. And because of the fact that, like we said, they do have that damage split in terms of physical and magic, BKBs aren't going to hurt them that much when they're actually up on Sven, who actually does already have one. So it's really... This is the point where EG needs to be applying the most pressure, because giving Blowyourbrain time to farm is just giving yourself an opportunity to get picked off in team fights because of the pure damage that they can do. We're going to see Funnick die again in the top lane, by the way, due to the blink initiation that EG now has in their arsenal. And the more that he keeps on dying, the less and less we're going to see an opportunity for a team fight coming out of Empire, because they're going to be heavily relying on things like Epicenter in the next couple of minutes to defend, especially once EG starts coming knocking at your door, because that little crevice or the tight area between the tier 2 and the tier 3, that's when Sand King really starts to shine. That's when heroes like Jakiro, of course, as well as Tombstones and things are all very good. And getting inside of the base of Empire is going to be a whole new task entirely until BKBs are up on heroes like Brood and TA, which they actually both have, so scratch that. They might be able to push quite well in the next couple of minutes.
Empire seems to be spending a lot of time near the Roche pit. They know he's going to be back up in a couple of minutes. Looks like about 2.5 minutes, give or take. EG has grouped up and smoked up. Demons leading the way, acting as bait. Jeyo, with the refraction already popped, already over on the side. Fear, under invisibility on his own webs. Empire, holding the line as best they can. They're going to move on out here. Let's see how they want to play this. This is a very big team fight if it does occur. Here we go. He's going to go ahead and pop the God Strength. There's a big Burrow Strike, catches 2. Echo Slam does a ton of damage in return. And there's the black hole. Everything EG needed, they got right there. They're still standing and fighting as a full team. SS being pursued by Jeyo. He's going to drop everyone again. Still standing from EG. That was good initiation out of Funnick, but with the big blink and the big Echo Slam, and they're just going to call it. Calling the GG, and I can't agree with them more. Beautiful turnaround there coming out of Bdiz. Bdiz, again, MVP you is, and as well as Maelk, who dropped the black hole, caught who he needed to catch, and EG stays alive. Pushes this series at least one more game. Empire leading 2-0 before this game started. Now just leading 2-1.
Well done by EG. That last team fight was such a good bait. Every single person from EG was sitting right there waiting for the initiation onto the Broodmother. They managed to take a huge team fight, and Empire's like, you know what? We know we lost our lanes. It's 17-4. Why not just go new? We have a 1-game advantage anyway. Let's try to take it in the next one. But I gotta say, the Broodmother ended up working out. They didn't take the game long enough to the point where Empire had the chance to recover, and they just took one really important team fight that probably would have resulted in a Rax and a Roshan on top of that. So that's when Empire decides to just call it quits. So don't really blame them for it.
EG showing signs of life, extending this series. They take their first step in a bid to run the table, win 3 in a row. They got 2 more ahead of them. Empire just has to win 1 more to secure first place. We'll find out which team's up to the task next. I'm AC, that's Draskell. You're watching the grand finals of D2L Season